This is Brandon Judd responding to a video analysis request that has been uploaded by Peter, and this is on a tantrum. Peter, thanks for uploading this video and for the description here. You said that you're pretty consistent with your tantrums, but you want to take this to blind or fakie, but it doesn't seem like it's flowing correctly to move into a more complex trick. You've tried to pop more straight up into more of a back tuck before looking back, but this is the best you can seem to be able to do at this point. What should you do differently? Okay. This is a really good start. Your tantrum looks really comfortable and consistent, which is great. The takeoff is what we need to alter a little bit. I'm seeing two things specifically that are preventing it from going the direction you need. One of them is the way that your board transitions from edge to edge. And then the other one is how long you keep two hands on the handle. So relatively simple stuff, however it may be kind of an easier said than done scenario. So let's show you some examples here. For everyone catching up, let's just take a quick look at your tantrum. Good edge in, and then as we can see here, you're still kind of on a heel side edge as you roll up the wake, and then you transition on the face of the wake, which is a little bit late. And then you're still two-handed and your head is starting to get thrown into the flip, and you just barely took your backhand off the handle, and then it's very upper body flipped. You kind of ignore your lower body and you do all of the rotation with your upper body, and what that does is it prevents you from slowing the flip down with your upper body, because if you don't learn how to flip with your lower body, then it's going to be hard to control the rotation if you add a 180 to it. So anyhow, it's looking good, and like I said, let's talk about those two specific things that we want to improve. So first thing is the handle. Real easy to diagnose here. So your two hands until right about here, and let's take a look at Kyle Schmidt when he does an indie tantrum. We'll look at how early he lets go with his backhand. So his hand is already completely off the handle here, and he's just at the bottom of the wake. And then if we toggle back to yours, your hand is still slightly on the handle, and you're already just about at the top of the wake. So pretty simple difference, but it makes a big difference in how your board reacts, because everything's going to follow your shoulders right now. So that one's easy. Just start letting go with your backhand a little earlier so that you can really get into that tripping position right. And then the second one is a little harder to see. So I'm going to try and pause your tantrum at the right spot. And it's like right at the transition point of the board. So I'm going to give you an example of Kason Siderhoud. He has an indie tantrum to blind here, but there's a point where the board almost comes off the water. Right, it's hard to see, and it's not that the board really comes off the water, it just becomes really lightweight under his feet. So he is anticipating really jamming his board in the wake. So you'll see it kind of get feather light for a moment. So right here he comes in, and then right there is where he lets off. So we're going to try and see that. There's a good leading edge of the board that is off the water. I think it's a little bit more exaggerated in Kyle's, so let's try and see if we can find that spot. Yeah, right there. You can see how his front foot, there's air underneath his board, in between the board and the water on his front foot. What that means is that as he edged in, when he was edging in with a hard edge and then switched edges, you don't have to mentally think, I'm going to hop now, but it's this kind of bouncy, poppy, trampoline type feeling when you hit the wake. And when you get light on your feet like that, it allows you to really drop your body weight down like you would on the trampoline. If you were to jump up and down on the trampoline, the up that precedes your heavy bounce really sets you up to throw your momentum down into the mat, and then the mat pushes you back up. And that's kind of what's happening on a tantrum. So you get a little bit of this kind of up feeling, and then you push down really hard at the wake with your back foot, and it will pop you more straight up, and the board won't feel so stuck to the water. There's a few other riders out there I think Josh Twelker is one example. You'll see him come to the wake really hard and fast, and then he'll let off his edge, and you'll see his board come almost completely out of the water before it hits the wake. So some riders really exaggerate that principle, and on yours, I don't see it at all. You stay on your edge and you just kind of roll your edge. So I want to see you transitioning quicker and a little bit more light on your feet. You're going to be kind of on the balls of your feet. It's going to feel real bouncy and trampoline-y right here where you're going to really pop at the wake. So your board doesn't really square up until right here, which is kind of late. So let's pause these guys as well. Kaysen's was a little late and as well, and then Kyle does his really well. So right here you'll see Kyle really gets his back foot deep in the wake and is still pretty upright. And then when you start initiating your flip, your board is still barely in contact with the water and you're already kind of arcing back. And Kaysen, watch his chest. He'll bring his lower body into him instead of his upper body backward behind him. So see how his upper body is still just about the same, and now he's just bringing his board and chest up? Still, same thing. His upper body is still exactly where it was when he took off. And right there, when his knees meet his chest, that is when the flip starts traveling. So let's look at Kyle and see how his does as well. You'll watch his upper body stay pretty vertical all the way until his knees hit his chest, and then at this point, it all starts moving backwards. So let's take a look at yours. You can see your chest is already kind of moving backward. Your board hasn't done much motion, and your chest is already really far back. So you're kind of arching your back and throwing your head straight backward and looking up. And this is what's going to stop you from being able to control it. Because if at this point, if you were to bring your knees into your chest, you would flip so fast you would over-rotate and fall on your back. Which you can kind of tell you try and stall out the flip here so that you can land comfortably. So that is the big difference, is when you transition a little bit later by letting go. Let's show this one real quick. You'll transition a little bit earlier, by letting go of the handle a little earlier, and what that will do is it will have you be light on your feet right there, almost like he bounced, and then look how deep his board is in the water there. And then you're really going to get straight upward pop, and you keep your chest pretty much the same, and then you bring your lower body in. You allow the wake to really kick your knees into your chest. You don't want to bring your chest to your knees. That's another thing that people make a mistake of. You don't want to bring your chest down to your knees. You want to bring your knees up to your chest. And then as soon as you get the board in your hand, that's when you'd kick your head back. And at this point, when you spot the water, that's when you can use the handle to leverage and your hips and lower body to twist into the backside 180. So we'll try and compare and contrast that if you're trying to do a tantrum to blind, for example. So you'll see Kaysen and Kyle are both in the same position here. Kaysen's a little bit further behind. There you go. Pretty similar position. And then Kaysen just uses the handle and his hips to leverage the board into backside rotation, and Kyle just keeps his still and relaxes. And then we'll let Kaysen finish his here into the blind landing. And again, you want to make sure your blind landing is really, really strong and consistent before you start trying tantrum to blinds, because a lot of people get hung up in the air and it encourages a really painful back edge. So, but that's about it. So number one, keep your hands off of the handle earlier. You'll take that hand off the handle earlier so that you can square up a little better. And then you want to edge into the wake a little more punchy so you can go straight up and then use your lower body to flip you instead of your upper body. So again, that's easier said than done, but trampoline practice really helps here. If you can spend some time on the trampoline practicing the different kind of flip with your lower body initiating the rotation, then that will really translate over to the water very well. So good luck, and hopefully this helps you progress. Thanks again.